Welcome, everybody, to our talk tonight. I'm Michael Dalton, bioenergy practitioner, trainer, and healer for the last 30 years. And our talk tonight is actually called The Healer's Journey. And I wanted to kind of give a little breakdown of kind of the journey of after 30 years of healing. It's been some journey. And I want to give a kind of a little insight into the journey of healing and how indeed it can even call us, it can call us to purpose, it can call us to service, it can activate our intuition, it can activate a giving and receiving. And as these things get activated inside us, we might find ourselves going down a path that we didn't quite expect, ending up on a journey that we hadn't planned. And sometimes these things happen, right? Where we end up on this beautiful journey having not originally planned that, and we sometimes end up on that route. So our talk tonight will be how that journey unfolds, and we'll begin with the first part is I call it like intuition on or of. And I've always found, like, in terms of healing, like when I started my journey 30 years ago, there was this like moment where it was like my intuition just got switched on, and I felt like I was called into bioenergy. So it was like I had been like just drawn from, I was upstairs in the house and I came down, I was just drawn to watch this program that was on the TV. And I had just gone upstairs, I had no reason to go downstairs, but I felt this strong pull, go downstairs now. And when I went downstairs, there was actually a show on the television, an old Irish program called The Late Late Show. And they had bioenergy on The Late Late Show. And when I watched it, at first I thought it was a bit crazy, people waving their hands around doing healing, but it really drew me in because people had asthma and eczema and they said they got better. And really, that's why I got drawn there, because I had asthma and eczema. I'd done the whole medical route, nothing had worked for me. And then when I saw these people doing healing, as much as I thought it was a bit crazy, there was something in it that really resonated. And there was something that, like, I must try this, I must experience this. And after 4 treatments, my asthma and eczema were completely gone. And that, I often think of that as like that, wherever that message came from, that got me to go downstairs at that moment and like see that program that was on the TV, like that exact moment that I got pulled in, something like turned on inside me that sent me downstairs, And then another big intuitive one was about like a year or two after that. I had really wanted to study bioenergy, but there was no courses available at the time. And so I ended up taking off and traveling around Europe, and I had this plan to travel for a year. And I was about 7 months into my travels. I think it was in France at the time. And I had this intuition came back in again. And it was like, go home now. And I had another like 3 months of traveling. So like Europe is quite small. It only takes like, maybe 2 hours to fly, from like 2.5 hours to fly probably from Paris to Dublin. So it's not far at all. But when you're traveling around at like 21, like it's the other side of the world, and I was away for a good few months and not planning going back for another 3 months. But there was this strong feeling, go home now, go home. And so I ended up like booking a flight and going home the next day, canceling my trip 3 months early. And I got home, and of course there was nothing out of the ordinary. So I was like, oh, this is really strange. But the next day after, I got a call from the original bioenergy people that had treated me, and they were going to teach their first course in bioenergy, and they had my name on a list, and they said, we're going to be starting the course. I think it was like 2 months away or something. and we're going to be starting the course. Are you interested? And I had literally just flown home the day before. And, you know, this was back, we didn't have mobile phones. I don't even know if we had email back then. But, you know, we used to do letters and actually a phone. You know, maybe the young people wouldn't know what that is, but there's like a cable on the phone, right? So I got home and they rang on that phone, the phone with the cable, we call it the landline. You know, some people still have them, but it almost seems old fashioned now. But I was there for that phone call intuitively, however, got me back on that flight in time for that phone call to take that course, you know, more than 30 years ago. And that would then create a whole journey of healing for the next 30 years. So they were the kind of like one big intuition one was like pulled me into receiving healing. And then the second intuition one pulled me into receiving the training. And over the years, you know, one thing that I've noticed, like I've run a lot of training courses over the years. And one thing that I've noticed is often people that end up on the courses, they end up there intuitively, you know, and I always find that really strange. Like they're always like, oh yeah, I just found out about your course last night and it's starting today, or, you know, or a friend of a friend sent me, and they just have really interesting ways of how they got to the course and how they got on it. And I find that intuition really it's very like right brain, you know, so we're so used to communicating in a very left brain way, right? So we communicate in a very like he said, she said, and then he said, and then she said, and then he said, and then she said. And we have this kind of back and forth in a very kind of logical, like A, B, C gets you to D. But with the intuitive side of the brain, there's more like you kind of go from A straight to D, right? It just brings you think of something and it brings you solutions, it brings you answers. And so the intuitive side, I often find is it just gets like turned on when people are ready to open to healing. And whether that's to become a healer and learn healing, or whether that's to receive healing, I often find that some of the people that come for sessions and have the most miraculous results, they find out about it in the weirdest ways. Again, intuitively, you know, they've never seen it before, and then they see it 3 times in the same week. You know, they get like they see a poster, they see an email, they see you know, a recommendation from someone, but all like 3 different recommendations for the same thing, all within a day or a few days or a week. And so there's often this like something just kind of activates and pushes them into it. And I often wonder too, like if, you know, when we are intending and creating from our place of like wanting to create and bring things into our life, I think that sometimes the universe gives us opportunities to fulfill our desires. It gives us an opportunity to meet us at the level at which we want to be met. So like as an example, if you have someone who's really sick, there's and they say, you know, I really want to get better. I really want to get better. It's not that friggin' angels float down in clouds and heal you, but maybe you get guided to pick up a pamphlet, or you just go on someone's website, or you know, someone mentions something to you and you get like 2 or 3 like messages, go to this, go to this, go to this. And that's what I mean. Sometimes like, it's not that we get the solution, but we get the opportunity that if we take action, we find a solution. And I think that's kind of like what happened to me. I like in the very beginning, I had reached a point where I was pretty fed up with the medical profession. I had gone to this specialist, waited like 2 years to see the specialist, went to the specialist, and after seeing the specialist said to me, you have eczema. And I was like, I know I have eczema. That's why I'm here. And, you know, the specialist like, well, you'll just take these creams. I'm like, well, I've taken those, they don't work. And so I was at a point of like frustration. And I often think of, there's a point of frustration, which is where we lose our power, right? Like, well, maybe there's a point of victimhood where we lose our power. And then there's a point of frustration where we start getting like angry or upset. And it can actually be a little bit empowering. It can be a little, when we like say, you know, feck off the stuff where I'm really frustrated, it can actually be quite empowering, right? And so sometimes I find that, you know, people will be sick until people will be sick until they're sick of being sick, right? And so then at that point, when you're like, you know, you're not asking anymore to get better. You're like, I'm fed up with this. I want to get better. And then the intuition just is like, in that emotion, the intuition gets turned on. And in bioenergy, we call that the internet. So the internet, the energy comes online and you start to match up with these vibrational frequencies, these opportunities. And so I think like when that intuition gets turned on and we get pulled into things that maybe can help us or support us or be the solution to the very thing that we're asking, I think something else happens then, and what happens is we're really ready to receive. And I think that's the thing, is like that, you know, sometimes when you're looking for healing, you go to different things and you try different things and you spent lots of money and you wasted lots of time, and you know, you've gone to lots of different people and you've done your best to get better. You're doing your best to get better, you know. But there's also a point where like it's hard to, like, if you've been sick for a long time, it's even hard to believe that you can get better or that you will get better, or, you know, especially if you've tried lots of things and nothing has worked for you, you know. And yet there's some intuitive part of you that, there's some intuitive part that deep inside you like knows that you can get better, right? That's why someone who's been sick for 20 years or 30 years, they still end up in a healing clinic somewhere looking for help, because somewhere deep inside them there's a knowing that they can get better, you know. And that when that intuition gets turned on, you know, instead of looking in the wrong places, we immediately start looking in the right places. We go from A to D, we go straight to the solution, we go straight to the result. And so for me, that was the intuitive side. I, you know, had spent a couple of years waiting for the medical profession, doing all the things I was supposed to do, trying different things, nothing had worked. And then at that point where the intuition came on and brought me straight to bioenergy, I had a really fast, dramatic healing. In 4 sessions, my asthma and eczema were completely gone. And those sessions were over 4 days. So in less than a week, the asthma and eczema that I had for years was completely gone. And how do you fit that into your consciousness? Like, that's not normal. That's not supposed to happen in our normal everyday experience, right? Like, but yet when it does happen, it shakes up your consciousness. It shakes up your belief system. It shakes up, like, does that mean that my body isn't as physical as I think it is? If someone can heal me without touching me, then is there more? You know, my body was moving with the energy, which was really a weird sensation. Now, you know, it seems very normal in my life and in the life of people that do healing, that moving is really normal with the energy. The energy moves and pulls you, and, you know, it's like a dance with the energy. It's like, you know, you see someone dancing with music. Well, this is like, you know, someone is moving with the energy and they can feel it pulling and moving them. And when I first experienced that, you know, my thought was like, this is outside my normal experience. You know, how is this happening? How am I feeling these energies that are outside my normal experience? And how is this, how is this this doesn't fit in with the norm, right? This doesn't fit in with everything is physical, everything is tangible, you know, everything is atoms and physical and solid. And this was more, well, not everything is fixed. Things are more lucid, more fluid, right? And so that to me was the kind of beginning of the healing journey, of a dramatic healing, you know, to begin with. And then the next stage, I call it the call to be of loving service, you know. And it's just like in that place where your mind goes through this transformation, the heart opens. And I think what happened with my heart was, I was just like, why isn't everybody doing this? Why doesn't everybody know about this? Why are people in pain and suffering? And we all know, like, we all know people in pain and people are suffering. And we've all, I don't think that you can be alive without having pain and suffering, right? From the moment we're born and we're pushed out the birth canal, we come out kicking and screaming, right? So, you know, we're born into a you know, maybe some pain, maybe some suffering, and then a lot of like pain and suffering, I think I've come to understand over the years, we do to ourselves, you know. Now, you know, that might cause a bit of controversy, but yeah, I think other people can cause us pain and suffering, but no one causes us more pain and suffering than we do to ourselves. And so I think like this pull that I had, this next stage of, I would say, the healer's journey, is there's this intuitive pull that opens up inside you, and you're like, I'm supposed to do this. And it's not even oh, I wish I could do this, I hope I could do this. You know what I said to myself, and I obviously I still remember it, even though it's so long ago. I said, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. You know, I knew 30 years ago, when it was actually even longer than that. It was when I first received the treatment. It was on the third day of my treatment. I looked around, I saw people being healed. My asthma was getting better, my eczema was better. And I had eczema all over my hands, and they were completely gone, cleared up. My breathing, you know, just had completely cleared. And I looked around and I saw all these people like receiving healing, and people in pain. There's like maybe 200 people in this huge hotel receiving healing from about 6 to 8 practitioners. And I knew there and then I would do this for the rest of my life. I was like, you know, if we can help take people's pain and suffering away, like, what a gift. And I was studying mechanical engineering, so it was a very different, that's about fixing machines. Now it's fixing people, right? You know, but it's still fixing things. I mean, people like to fix stuff. I think we all do, you know. I know they say men are good at fixing stuff, but I think we all like to fix stuff, you know, like you know, I think as our human nature, you know, is I think that our human nature is, we want to help each other, we want to support each other, we want to take care of each other. I think society is kind of pretty messed up and there's a lot of dysfunction, but I think deep down in the human being, given the opportunity, we'll help and support each other. You know, given the opportunity, even if money wasn't an issue, we'll do things for free. We'll do things because they feel like the right thing to do. You know, like everything from simple things, from finding someone's wallet and giving it back to them, and they try to give you money and you're like, no, it's, you know, it's the right thing to do, is just to return it someone. You don't have to think about it. It's not a big deal. It's the right thing. And I think that's inside all of us, is like the right thing to do. What would love do? It's the right thing to do. And so this call to service is sometimes like it'll hit the healer out of the blue, where there's a knowing, you have to do this. This is yours to do. This is now your new job. This is your future. This is your whole life has brought you to this point, you know. everything has been like preparing you and planning you and getting you ready for this next stage of your development. And what is that? It's helping others. And there's something about that, you know, about there is something inside of us that when we're helping others, that when we're contributing, that we feel more complete. I think when we're only in self-service, we feel less complete, you know, but when we're in service to others, I think it opens the heart, it expands the heart. It's the more you give away, the more you receive. The more you give, the more you receive, you know. There's something beautiful about it. And it's like when the energy is flowing through you, when you tap into the energy and you're doing healing and it's flowing through you, it's this sensuous, magical dance. You know, people say like, it's sensuous. I'm like, it is. It's like, have you ever watched like a musician playing music and they forget about the audience? They're just like, it's like they're in love with the music and they're singing and they're playing the guitar and it's just flowing through them and they're in the zone, right? They're just infused with the music. There's a sensuousness about it between the musician and their music, right? And the same, I would say, like in healing, when we connect with the energy that's flowing through us, when it flows through the hands, when it flows through the eyes, when it flows through the heart, it gives you something. It gives you an expression of your creativity. It gives you a feeling of deep connection beyond anything that's superficial, a connection beyond anything that comes and goes. It's like I would say it's like connection to source. It's connection to that unlimited creativity. And you see it in many ways, like not just in healing, but you know, well, maybe healing is multiple things. Maybe people are healing through, you know, sharing their music. People are healing through sharing their art. People are healing through sharing their dance or through sharing food. You can eat food made by someone with love and you can feel the love in the food. Isn't that true? Like when someone prepares food for you and they so want to share this food, you can feel the love from the food, right? And so I think that to me, there's when we're really sharing from that place of alignment, there's an authenticity about it, and it gives more to you than it takes away, right? Like even though the energies are coming through you and leaving, but it's like a waterfall that replenishes you. The more you give away, the more energized you become. I've often heard healers say like that they get drained or tired after they heal people. And I sometimes think, well, maybe you're doing it wrong. you know, maybe you're doing it wrong, right? Maybe you're using yourself, you know, but when we get out of the way, right? When we get out of the way and it flows through us, it elevates you, it expands you, it uplifts you, you know, it takes you on a journey, it takes you to another level, a level of expansion. It doesn't take away from you. I think that when we do something and it takes away from us, maybe we don't want to do it, right? We call that work. No, but sometimes when we're doing stuff when we really don't want to be there, we're not taking care of ourselves and we're just giving and we're giving because we feel we're looking for, maybe there's some, like you could have a healer who's giving because they're looking for like a claim back, or they're looking to prove something, and you know they're going to get drained when they don't get that back. But when we give just, you know, from that place of giving, from, I think it's just love. Like it's really simple. I don't think it's really that complicated. When we're connected and we're feeling love and we give love, we don't lose love when we give it. We expand in love the more we give it. And to me, that's what healing is. And that's what the call to healing has been, is it's finding what you love and expressing that, you know, expressing that as creativity. And so then that call to service, I found it wasn't just for me, but I found like that, you know, as I got into teaching and I was teaching other people, I was teaching other people to do healing. Like even in a very interesting way, the very first time I did a training course, I I hadn't planned on doing any teaching, right? Like, so there was no initial course. Like when I first got into bioenergy, I was really passionate about doing healing. I was like, I'm going to do healing for other people. I really love it. I want to do it for others. And then, over a year or two, people kept asking me about, like, would I teach them bioenergy? And I would just keep referring everybody back to the people that trained me. And I'm like, no, I don't do teaching. Believe it or not, even though I'm here sharing all this, but I was actually very shy and very kind of like a bit more like withdrawn and less outspoken as a kid, or young, when I was younger. And I had a bit of a speech impediment. And so I was kind of more held back from speaking in public. I would never think of like doing any type of public speaking, no friggin' way. So like the idea of doing teaching was like, no, I would never do that. I just want to do the healing for people, and one-to-one, right? Like it's safe, it's easy, it's nice. And, doing it in that way. But people it's so funny. Like there was people that came to me and they said, I'm supposed to train with you. And they knew that they were supposed to train with me. I didn't know they were supposed to train with me. I didn't know I was supposed to teach, but people kept coming, like, they're like, my intuition is telling me I'm supposed to do the training with you, and people keep coming and saying that. And then at some point I was like, okay, well, I gotta learn the teaching and put the teaching together. And it started out with just a few people I knew, to then, like I got more and more comfortable. I think I started out with like 6 people that I knew, to 8 people that I didn't know, to 20 people that I didn't know, and then standing up in front of 100 people that I didn't know, doing presentations, up to 500 people that I didn't know, doing presentations. And and then I don't know how, but I just became very comfortable at it. And it's like, it was another aspect of me that needed to come online, that needed to open up, that needed to express. And I realized, as much as I love doing healing for people, when I got to teach about the healing, we call this the open throat chakra, right? So the healing is the heart chakra, and then teaching is the throat chakra. And I thought that it couldn't get better than healing. I honestly thought it can't get better than doing healing one-on-one with people. It's the most beautiful, relationship. It can't get better than that. And then when I get into the teaching and I started teaching other people to do healing, it was another whole level. I would call that like the second stage of development. So there's stages of healing, the healing development. And the very first stage is really, I think of it really as like people receiving healing. The very first stage is going from victimhood to self-empowerment. So people start to turn their health around, they start to become better. And there's this turning around from victimhood into self-empowerment, into more sovereignty, in connecting with their internet, their light, their beingness, opening up their energy, expanding their energy. I think of that as the first development. And then the second development is the offering of like really wanting to be a practitioner, really wanting to do it for other people. And that for me, and when I was doing that, like I said, I thought that was it. It doesn't get better than this. And then when I started teaching, not only was I getting to share like the love, but I was getting to speak about what I loved. And this chakra here is so important, my friends, because the throat chakra is the expression center. And it's really important because it affects all the lower chakras. It affects the whole energy of the body. And when we get to express ourselves, we become more alive, And I realized, sometimes I was up on stage and presenting to people and teaching classes, and I realized there's nowhere else in the world I'd rather be at this moment than engaging with these people and sharing this like the lessons of bioenergy are really all lessons, like deep healing lessons on the energy system, how the energy works. But it really all comes to love, right? Like it's the electromagnetic field of the body, but it all translates. If we translate all the ones and zeros of all the knowledge and wisdom, it all returns back to love, right? And so here I was teaching about love, teaching about healing, and found that that expression like brought me to another level. And I find now, you know, that as people go through healing and they receive their healing and they become practitioner, that then the same thing started happening my students, where they're like, Michael, I think I really want to teach it. I think I want to teach bioenergy to other people. And I recently had it was actually really sweet. I have this lovely student, Wendy from Wales, and she had studied with me 22 years ago. So she had taken her practitioner course actually in London, but she's from Wales, but she had taken it in London 22, 23 years ago. And she had been practicing the bioenergy, and I think I saw her once or twice after that, and then I hadn't seen her at least in like, I don't know, 15, 16 years or something. And she'd gone to live in Thailand, and she was doing bioenergy over there. And then after a period of time, she came back to Wales, and she was practicing bioenergy. And she'd been practicing bioenergy for the whole 20 years, you know, since she had done the level 2. And then for the first time, I had going to offer a teacher course online. So, you know, during COVID, a lot of my courses shifted over to online, that they weren't online before. And then Wendy got back in touch and said, I want to take the teacher's course. And even though it was like 20 years later, I thought that was really cool. How sometimes like we're just drawn to what we're supposed to do, and there's no escape to it. And we can invite it and we can do different things, but sometimes when we're ready, it just happens. And she's flourishing now doing her teaching and loves doing her teaching. But I realized something else happened in me. I thought that when I teach people, that was the best feeling in the world. And I'm like, it can't get better than this. This is like awesome. And then when I was like teaching other people to teach, I went to another level. And I'm like, oh my God, this is now the best feeling in the world. Like teaching other people to teach other people to do healing. Like this is another level, like that I hadn't experienced before. So I thought, you know, there was great pleasure in doing healing for others. There was great pleasure in teaching other people to do healing. But now there was like a whole new level of satisfaction of, I don't know, like completion or something, like something that was supposed to happen. Like it was something that was supposed to happen. It was a completion of something that, you know, you watch a movie and you get to the end of the movie and you're like, oh, that was good. It was kind of like when I was teaching other people to teach bioenergy, it was kind of like, ah, this is what was supposed to happen. It took me a long time to get there, but it was like, this is what was supposed to happen. You know, this was the journey. This was my healer's journey, or, you know, a healer's journey, but it was also the same journey for a lot of other people who had like gone through their healing. And then something really magical happened when everything shut down. See, I had done a lot of like my teaching in person. I really loved doing the healing and teaching in person. And though, you know, I offered sessions like in person, and when people would ask me for distant healing sessions, I would do it, but I really didn't enjoy doing it. I really wanted doing it in person, you know. So when it came to training, I was like, I don't want to do training online. Like, how can you teach people how to heal online? Like, really, I want to do it in person. And I was very fortunate because I got to bring the healing to Costa Rica and Mexico, and bring it to beautiful places and hold beautiful retreats and offer it to people. And, you know, it was a beautiful time for about 10 years almost. I was doing that. And but there was something else happened where, like, when everything shut down, people kept asking me, will you teach me online? And I was like, back to this place of like, no, I don't teach online. And no one said like my intuition told me you have to teach me online, but there was a feeling of my intuition was telling me that I was supposed to teach them online. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And I was in this place of like, everybody was jumping to doing Zoom courses and online stuff. And I really like held out. I think I held out from March all the way to September. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. And then in September, I thought to myself, well, if I was to teach a course online, how would I do it? Because it's like, you're helping people. You do techniques where they're having to have their hands in certain places and their feet in certain places, and they have to move energy through, and they have to interact with a person. And like, how would you even go about doing that, through Zoom? But for a long time, I told myself, oh, you can't do it, you can't do it. But the moment I decided to do it, I said, well, how would I do it? And the moment I decided to do it, I found like solutions. I immediately found solutions. The solutions were there. And I basically, would combine like Zoom with Facebook, and I would have students upload their videos to Facebook, and then I would pull it into the Zoom call and kind of show them with the mouse where they should be standing, where their hands should be, how they should be working with the energy. And there was a really couple of beautiful things that happened. One was people started learning it in the same way that people were learning it as if we were there in person. People were learning it. And because of the videos, like uploading the videos, you could see if people were learning it correctly or incorrectly. But when it came to people doing their case studies, which like people have to practice and do case studies and qualify, the very first course that I did online, like people started qualifying in it, which meant that they were getting the results with the people that they were treating. And for some of these people I had never met. Some of these people are on other sides of the world. Now I have people like getting up in the middle of the night to take the training because of the time difference. But there's a few hands here waving. But in essence, it was like, I think one of the beautiful things that happened with the online training was that people from around the world could take the training, and they weren't limited to, having to travel to somewhere or to be able to do that. And that was something, like I said, I resisted. But I think that life is always evolving and changing. And I'm not a person that's against technology. I mean, I love technology. I think technology is wonderful. I think used in the right way, I think technology could free up our time, could free up our finances, could free up our energy, could free up travel. If we had free energy, right? If it was used correctly, we'd all have free energy, free services. And I think it could be a very beautiful future that we live in as things become freer, right? And I have that like dystopian future where I see like I can see people doing the things that they love for free because they don't need because energy is exchanged freely, versus like how we do it now, which is everything is controlled and very limited. And then like even for us to have to give, well, we need to receive, right? So, but there's a beautiful concept of like, if as we evolve into our next stage of evolution, as free energy becomes available and we become freer beings, that we'll get to do more of the things that we love, and we'll end up doing them for free because just because we'll want to. No, I don't always think like, I've in the past I've given people training courses for free and they never complete them. Right? So you got to find the balance between like, when you charge people show up and they attend and they complete things. When you don't charge people, they don't value it. So there's that idea too, right? But in terms of like imagine as we continue to evolve and we shift, and technology has been moving with that evolving and that evolution. And, you know, as much as like technology can bring us close to people who are far away. Look at people on this call tonight. We have lots of people on, you know, technology has brought us all together, you know, and it's a really beautiful thing. But it also, like, you can be at home with your partner and be on your boat on your phone, and it can also disconnect you from the people that you love, right? You can be out at dinner with someone and be on your phone. Well, you know, you're disconnecting yourself. So just as technology can connect us, it can disconnect us. And so I think it's important that we find a balance, right? We have to find a balance with it. But in terms of like how I started using technology in the training, was I feel like now that it's actually a really great support, because you can like communicate with people on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis or monthly basis, in whatever way you want to do it. You can connect with people, you can reach out to people, you can communicate with people in ways that when we had just landlines and we didn't have emails, it was a little bit more difficult. In ways that when emails came out now, you know, we get so many emails like that, it's hard to keep track of what you're even getting, you know. And but there's something magical when we can come online and we can just connect with each other for this hour or whatever it is that we come on, and we're just present with each other. And then when we direct that in towards healing or towards something with purpose, there's a resonance that takes place, there's a communication that takes place, there's something happens within that presence when we witness each other, when we come on video and we look at each other. There's a connection that takes place. And in some ways you might find, like, even just being on this call today, maybe you sleep better tonight, maybe you have less pain in your body, you know, maybe life just feels a little bit more positive, a little bit more uplifted. And it's all because we're all energy, frequency, and vibration. And when we're around certain energies, we might go down a little bit. And when we're around other energies, we might go up a little bit, you know. And I think as we evolve in our own process of, in our own journey, in our own process of evolving, that this journey that the healer goes on, like this journey of finding, like, from that victimhood to empowerment and returning back to their health and well-being, and then wanting to offer that to other people, and then finding not only that offering to other people, but coming into full expression with that. It's kind of like, in whatever journey or whatever path we're on, I think all journeys are trying to bring us to fulfillment. They're all trying to lead us to expression of your creativity, expression of your bliss, expression of your love. And whether that's music, whether that's poetry, whether that's art, whether that's peeling potatoes, you know, you could be making food for people who are hungry, and that is a very noble cause. There's people who go to yoga practices, and they offer their time and energy to do the food for the yoga practice. And that's like, what a really beautiful offering. So they offer their time and energy to it's kind of like a good karma. It's like a karmic exchange, and they offer their energy. And it's like, there's so many ways that we can give, that we can offer, that we can share what we have to offer, you know. And so I know, like, this like journey that I spoke about, of like, I think for each of us, it's just like understanding that for all of us, our life is a journey. And if you're unhappy with the journey, then change your destination, right? Like, change where you're going, right? Like, you know, we can complain and complain and complain, but sometimes, like, if we keep doing what we've always done, we're always going to get what we've always gotten, right? It's really not just a definition of insanity, but I think it's a definition of victimhood, is keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, right? I mean, Einstein called it the definition of insanity, so I won't argue with him. But I think it's really the definition of victimhood is expecting things to change but not doing anything different. And I think when we're in victimhood, there's a lot of I want for me. So it's self-service. Like even if it's just like I want to get better. You know, sometimes I've trained people who are like in their healing process, and they're learning how to do healing for others at the same time that they're receiving healing, and they're getting work done on themselves, but their mind is already in a place of I want to do it for other people. And sometimes what I found is like when people stop receiving healing for themselves and they start doing healing for others, in some cases, that's when people get better who are not getting better. Now, how bizarre is that, right? You're trying to get healing to get better, and you're not getting better. But then you do healing for others, and then you get better, right? Isn't that weird? And that's what I mean about the calls to service, that sometimes it comes, your receiving comes in the most unexpected ways. You receive when you give. When you're too like, I want, like if someone comes into a healing session and they're like, okay, I have an hour, give me the healing, you know, it's almost like the healing will humble them. It'll like make them wait, you know, it'll make you wait a couple of sessions. It's like, no, like slow down, you know, be present, you know, you don't come and you demand, you come and you lower yourself. You know, you show respect to nature, to the nature of this energy that wants to move through us and heal us, this Mother Gaia, this Father Sky, these powerful forces of nature that move through us and heal us and correct us. You know, you can't come to them and demand and force, you know, or they'll kick your arse. They'll show you that, you know, they'll give you some humble pie to eat. Right? You'll get some humble pie. If you think you're in control, it'll give you some humble pie to eat, right? It's only when we realize, yeah, we're part of this beautiful, magnificent energy, but we have to know our place within that, right? Like we're co-creators. We're co-creators with this beautiful energy. But we're not in control. If you think we're in control, we're not in control of any of this. Really, our whole journey is about letting go of control. Our whole journey in whatever that is, whether that's the musician, whether that's the healer, whether that's the painter, it's like we got to let go. We got to get out of the way, you know, and when we get out of the way and we find our path, you know, sometimes the path, whether it's helping others, helps you, you know, it's who knows where the path takes us. But I think that's really, you know, whether we call that a spiritual awakening or your journey takes you on this awakening of waking up like the different aspects of yourself. Like when we waken up the solar plexus chakra, we come into self-empowerment, right? When we waken up the heart chakra, we return to love, right? And when we waken up the throat chakra, we return to full expression, completion of expression. You know, it's like a flower. When a flower fully blooms, then it dies. But even in its death, it has lived, you know. So it's like, I don't think, you know, I know when people die, it's sad, but I don't know. I've never had that same kind of like sadness for death. I think what's sad is that we don't live. I don't think it's sad that we die. I think it's sad that we often don't live. We don't live our best. We don't fulfill our best. You know, I think death is inevitable. I think it's like everything. It's like when we experience life, if there's no time limit, well, we're not maybe going to enjoy it or experience. Everything serves a purpose. Everything serves a purpose. I've even found out with illness and sickness, like even illness and sickness serves a purpose. You know, sometimes illness is to change the direction that you're on, to change your destination, to change your destiny, right? To put you on a different on a different path, right? Like, you know, some people get ill or sick. Sometimes they've gone off alignment with their integrity, with their authentic self. And so it drives them back into alignment. So as people recover and get healthy, now they're in full alignment with their purpose, with their path. And so sometimes illness comes along as a messenger, not to punish us. You know, when I had asthma and eczema, I kind of felt punished. I felt victimized. I felt like I did everything I was supposed to do. Why do I have this illness and sickness? But now, like, I could look back and I could say, I'm so glad I had asthma and eczema, because, you know, if I didn't, maybe I never would have looked for bioenergy. Maybe my intuition never would have got turned on. Maybe I never would have went down this path. You know, and I've had the good fortune and the opportunity to help thousands and thousands of people reclaim their health, to teach people healing, for other people to be sharing that healing. And I feel very blessed to be able to share this beautiful work. But I feel really humbled by it too. I feel humbled by, you know, like, even when you're working with a client, like even now after 30 years, like you've no control over whether people get better, right? Like, you're really coming and you're humbling yourself. Like, even, you know, there's like, you're looking to create this space. And usually that's the biggest thing, that people don't have space in their life, right? Life is so busy and they don't have space. And we have to come together and slow down and create space, ceremonial space, a space where spirit can enter, a space where we can get our ego out of the way, a space where we can surrender without having to eat the humble pie, a space where we surrender first, right? A space where we create space for healing to happen. And then we have to like open and trust that the healing will happen. And we've no control over whether it does or not. And I think that's what keeps you humble, right? Like, you have to be humble to that. And you get yourself out of the way and you wish for the best for this person. And, you know, and then I kind of like finish that off with a little affirmation I say is, dear God, if you don't want people to get better, don't feckin' send them to me. You know, so as well as the humble pie, there's a little bit of like, this is what I'm creating. I'm co-creating with the universe. So if you don't want people to get better, send them to someone else. If you do want people to get better, if you send people to me, I'm going to assume that you want them to get better. So I'm not going to be second guessing. I'm not going to be thinking like, oh, are they supposed to be able to get better? Are they not? I'm going to assume that you want them to get better, and I'm going to do my best to help them. I've still no control over the outcome, but I do have control over, I'm going to do my best to help someone. And I think that's been, for me, that's been my journey into healing. Thank you for listening tonight. Maybe there's some resonance in that for you, or there's some similarities that like has brought you on your path, or has opened you up to your path, or that you can resonate with, or maybe your intuition has been poking at you and you've been ignoring it. But it's like, you know, like, even if you've had illness or sickness, and it isn't always there, like it's not there to punish us. Like, even illness or sickness, it's really there to make changes in our life. It's really there to bring transformation, and there's so many rewards in it. There's so much that it gives us. It gives us far more than it takes away. And there's so many lessons, deep, wise lessons in it. And I often think, like, I've mentioned this, but our soul has one purpose, right? Our soul's purpose is to free us and liberate us. You know, it doesn't matter whether we're upset. It doesn't care whether we're happy or sad. Our soul's purpose is to free us and liberate us. And I think it's like, look, we've never been here before as a species at this time in humanity, at this time and space where technology is moving so fast. Like, AI will be in charge in a couple of years, right? You know, but who knows? Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But technology and things are moving so fast. We have communication. Like, I know a couple of people who are on right now from Australia. We have communication with the other side of the world in an instant communication. We've never been at this place before, where so many people are waking up and opening up and coming into connection with each other and finding their vibe and finding their tribe and finding their connection and opening up to their purpose and opening up to love. And I think that on some level, we've been called to this journey, right? Like, you know, it's not for anyone to tell you that you're on a healer's journey. You'll know inside of you. No one can tell you. You can't even put yourself on it if you want to, and you know it's not for you. It won't work that way. But something calls us. So there's a knowing, not a hope, you're not hoping and wishing. There's a knowing, and knowing that awakens in you, that activates you, that turns you on when you realize this is what your life is about. Your life is pulling you into this journey to be of service in whatever way, whatever capacity that is, that all of life has happened to bring you to a moment where you're ready to step into your full fractal light consciousness, because humanity needs it right now. Humanity needs more. That's why they call them light workers, right? Like, you know, light workers, right? Because we need to lighten up things. We need to uplift, to open, to expand the energies. There's a density in the energies that we're lightening, opening, expanding. We're bringing the shadow, the darkness into light. You know, you don't have to become the shadow or the dark. How do you transform darkness? Well, you go into a dark room and you turn on the light. That's what healers do. You know, you go in and you turn on the light. Everything looks better, everything looks brighter, everything is better. But also things get exposed, right? The light exposes the dark, it exposes our wounds. There's no better antiseptic than people coming together and communicating openly, right? And as people start to share their truth, you know, and we start to expose like all the bullshit that is put on us, and we start to like speak our truth and come into integrity with our soul essence, our true being. We remember that we're full fractal light beings. We're not these victims. We're not these limited beings. We're full light beings. We step into our power, and for some of you, maybe that is a healer's journey. Maybe your journey is to be here as a healer, and you know that will let you know it's a medicine that calls you. And you know, maybe it's been calling you your whole life, and maybe you've been ignoring it, but it calls. And you know, you can, of course you can ignore it because there's free will. Of course you can, you know, but it'll keep knocking on your door. It keeps calling, you know, because it's light always seeks to express itself like a flower. Like even a flower will grow up through cement and will find a crack in the cement and will come up through this little crack in the cement and reach up towards the sun. It literally, it pushes itself through the darkness, right? The light of the flower, the flower lifts itself through the darkness, through the soil, and breaks up and appears out into the light. And I think that, you know, maybe that's a good metaphor for us. No matter how dark life seems, no matter how desperate or in despair you are, no matter how much suffering you felt that you have, sometimes we feel like we've been buried, but maybe we've just been planted. Right? Maybe we've been planted, not buried, you know. Maybe we've been planted, and maybe our rising is we're rising out of that shadow. We're rising out of our darkness and we're rising into our light. And we're remembering, you know, the best way to expose light is to expose the darkness is to turn on the light, you know. And then whatever that is, I hope that you find your light. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to stop recording. But if you're tuning in on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Check out my link tree in the description for the courses I have coming up. We have a level 1 coming up in October, a level 2 coming up next January. And we've got ongoing sessions in person or distant healing. And it'd be my pleasure to share them with you. Thank you for tuning in tonight.